Hi, how are you? Hey, my name is Luke.
I don't really want to talk right now.
What's that?
I don't really think we have anything to talk about, to be honest.
Oh, we just want to have conversations. We're not looking to be mean or anything.
I understand. It's just, I mean, there's a lot going on right now.
Of course, yeah. That's a bit. I mean, we've been doing this for about a year, so it's been definitely heightening up. It's a lot of stuff going on right now, for sure. Yeah, but yeah. What? Do you live in Bend or?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, nice. I live in Sisters. This is a group out of Redmond Christian Church. I don't know if you go to church or anything or no. Yeah. I know you obviously don't want to talk, and that's fine, but you have a big poster, so I figured you might want to talk. But hey.
Okay, so flips to the rescue, I think.
Oh shit.
You guys like working together
every day
right now? Are you guys working together, or you come out together?
Well,
just
that's what I mean.
tired
Is we literally live in that building right there, so we're just.
Oh, gotcha.
Just
Okay.
like tired of seeing this every day.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
A flagpole.
That works. That works. Why? Like, I was gonna come over and honestly just ask, like, can you explain abortion as healthcare? And just like start a conversation like that, if that's okay. I mean, I definitely don't want to like, I don't want to get in a scream match or anything.
No,
like that's like my last thing I want to do out here. But yeah, I was just curious, why go through the effort of getting like abortion as healthcare?
It's just because it is. It's very necessary for a lot of different things. Not every, like ectopic pregnancies, among others. My partner has polycystic ovaries, and if she was ever to get pregnant, she had a very high chance of dying. And I don't have any faith that these anti-abortion advocating laws will have any. And we've already seen it in a number of places where there isn't there is not an objective to make it understandable and to have those edge case scenarios where a child was molested by their parent or something. And I feel that, yeah, it's more than abortion. It covers so many different, like, honestly, yeah, just topics and different edge cases where you can't legislate or you can't really come up. You can't really come up to here and just assume and have a sign that says we'll adopt when someone needs to have an abortion because it's going to eat away at their body and kill them. These signs are pointless. They're hurtful. I mean, they're not hurt. I get where they're coming from. I do. Do they get where they're coming from? Is where do they understand what they are saying implies? And it just seems like such a very black and white view of everyone's coming in here like to just have a beautiful baby and then to just get rid of it, when it's like there's so many things that, like, it's never easy, and this doesn't make it any easier, and I just feel it's very offensive to.
Sure, yeah, and I mean, signs are a terrible way of communicating, I will say that. Like, we that's why we like to have conversations, but sadly people aren't just walking up and down the street, and yeah, I think they say something quick, cutting. And like you're saying, it's like really quick and cutting, but it doesn't communicate like everything you want to say. And I appreciate like you saying, like, I get where you're coming from. A lot of people would just say like, F you, get out of here. And I'm like, okay, like, are you actually able to have a conversation? Like, see
a lot
the
of people,
viewpoint.
it's such a sensitive subject because it's a bunch of white middle-aged, well, I guess older white men, but like they have nothing on the table. Like they don't. You can't possibly, I guess, like, it's not your realm, I guess is the one thing. Like, even though it hurts to see it even more, like, when I see women abortion protesters, at least I can kind of understand where I get a bad taste in my mouth when I see a bunch of just...
Oh, sure. And when it's just those guys.
Like middle-aged guys, and, like, it's just, it says a lot to me.
But... yeah, no, I appreciate the comment. I mean, we definitely have heard it before. I don't know if this would at all make you feel I don't know. This probably won't do anything for you, but my wife's the reason she's not out here is because she's actually 9 months pregnant. So we're with our 3rd kid, and we do have women out here on occasion, but sometimes we can't make it. And if you think it's a valuable thing, like, I guess what I would say is, like, you know, I just don't think gender would have an implication on morality. Meaning, like, I don't have to be.
I guess it would just, it would leave a bad taste in my mouth if there was like a, you know, and like, I'm a big fan of King of the Hill and like Mike Judge stuff where he likes to kind of lampoon like liberals and stuff. You know, King of the Hill. But
I'm a little familiar, yeah.
But like, it's the idea that when you have like the stereotypical what's the like black culture professor, and he's a spindly white dude and everyone in there is white. It's like it's good, but it's also says it's weird, and it's like you would expect there to be more solidarity and less of like a long age, race, and gender. But I mean, abortion it is like widely supported by women overall, like in terms of just a big polling, and that's one of the things I just.
Yeah.
It doesn't. This isn't AMAB's like place to restrict.
Sure, and that's what I was saying is, like, I can sympathize and stand up for women. Like, say if they're in an abusive relationship, even though I'm not in an abusive relationship, I can still stand up for them. Or I'm not a woman in an abusive relationship. My gender doesn't mean I can't stand up for them.
Of course, so in regards to like ectopic pregnancies, pregnancies from rape, pregnancies from that.
Sure.
In your perfect world, would that all be covered? Would they be legally allowed to be able to get abortions?
And those things happen, and they're tragically sad. I would try to preserve both lives.
No, but like it's the lever situation. You know, it's the you got 4 people in the thing. You pull the lever. Like we can't go to the third rail. So like, would you? And I guess like this is honestly up to your wife. But like, would you be okay with your wife dying so that your child could live?
Well, I think I would die for my kids any day. My wife too. And if we can.
Basically, if they were put into a late term, like you're at 7 months, you go into your last thing, you're super excited to have your 3rd kid, and then you find out that while it is alive and doing well, if you continue it to term, there's a good chance that she will like bleed out and die on the operating table. The kid most likely is going to live, but your wife is going to die.
Yeah, and that's a tragic story, by the way.
Scenario, but it's not just it's real life. That's the thing. That's like the unintended consequences.
I'll try to answer that by just saying, I just imagine it like this, you know, because I take the view of, obviously, of course, you know, I take the view that as a child, that we don't end people's lives based on development or location, but basically to that response is that imagine if it was a 2-year-old. What would a good parent do?
So you're saying that she should die for the child?
Well, like, I would say the intention isn't to end one or the other. The intention is for life.
But you're saying if push comes to shove, she should die for the child? Because...
Well, would you not die for a 2-year-old in front of a train?
No.
You would let the train just go by if you had the chance to save that child and it was 2?
If I had to end my life, I'm sorry. Like, I wouldn't expect, and I especially wouldn't legislate a law that made it so that, you know, because we're kind of like running it back.
Sure,
that I had to, if I ever saw a baby in front of a train, I had to end my life to protect it. Otherwise, I would be prosecuted, which is kind of like the similar, you know, we're making a really silly, you know, obviously we're going into
and we're talking
hyperbole, but
talking about intention and giving scenarios.
That's that kind of thing where in the some sense that you just brought forth, if I was the person who needed to like die to let's save a child, this anti-abortion legislation would be I didn't save that child. I'm now in trouble of getting prosecuted, and which is very similar to what happens, which is like someone got prosecuted in you know, some goddamn southern state. I'm not gonna name drop things and be incorrect, but
sure.
Someone had a miscarriage, and this was just after like the local state abortion laws were like not struck down, but I guess you would say like weakened, like pegs taken out from them. And she had a miscarriage, and she was prosecuted. And I don't know what happened. That was very much like in the...
Wow. Yeah, like, I think that's wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's like kind of the state we're being put in, to where that's why abortion law is so important, because ultimately, and I assume you guys have some libertarian values, like being able to understand like people make their decision themselves. And like this is just that. It's being able to let someone know that you are able to make your body, or you're able to control your body. That there's no state agency that is going to force you to carry a child to term, that's going to force you to have an unsafe pregnancy, and that if you are scared of dying, or you're scared of that, or hell, you have postpartum depression in your family, and like, it's just, I don't need to tell you my life story, and I know you don't want that, but
I don't mind. I chat with people for hours.
My partner's mom, she died of ovarian cancer.
Wow.
And before that, she barely was there because she had such postpartum depression that it absolutely destroyed her. And it just, both those things are reproductive rights, like, inclusive. And that's why abortion is, to bring it all full circle, that is why abortion is healthy, because it is so much more than just having a healthy baby that people don't want in this like picket fence idea of someone going in and being the nasty woman who gets an abortion. That's never it. And if it is, for every like 100 that like someone is just like, God, if I knew someone who was just like that caricature of a like nasty liberal woman who just got an abortion every 3rd week because hell, she said she liked it in some freaky awful situation. I wouldn't legislate against her. I wouldn't legislate against others, all the other women in the world in this country, just to stop a bad worst case scenario. And I think that's often I've heard, and I was raised like Republican, and like my parents, I'm from Arizona.
Were you raised Christian?
I was as well.
I heard like snippets of what you were saying, and it sounded very Christian ideology.
And it's just like I get that, and I understand. I've been around so many people, and I get it, but I also don't fully get. I don't think that it's either you guys don't get it, and I don't mean that but it's either it seems like it's either they don't get it, or if they do understand where these edge cases that are just so very important and they just don't care. That's what it feels like. It's either they don't understand, which is, that's its own sadness, or they don't care, which is horribly worse. I'm not a liberal. I'm a leftist. Like, I don't think.
What's that? Sorry.
I'm not liberal. I'm leftist. I don't. Okay. I don't feel like I'm represented well. Like.
Sure.
Like Democrats.
Yeah.
It's a gross like. Best or like lesser of two evils. Everyone is wealthy, and it just sucks. And I'm not like saying that Democrats are like gonna save us. Fuck us. But like, it's just it sucks because I almost feel it's like, why do you make me feel the need to like vote this way, because my only other option is literal like goddamn like handmaiden still. Like, I know that's not the case, but that's very much like a scary thing, and a very like idea of just.
What's interesting is like our discussion right now is really interesting. It's like, because typically, I don't know if you know this, but like what you're saying is very different from like a lot of pro-choicers that we come out here, and it seems to assume that like a pregnant woman, the child that they're carrying, has some kind of intrinsic value. Do you believe that? Because it kind of sounded like that to me, but I want to clarify.
It does, but I don't like a forced choice. I will always value the person who is carrying the child over the child. That's just like a baseline. That's just how I will. I will never.
Yeah. Can I ask how you got there? Like, what made you come to that conclusion? It sounds like a journey. So.
I guess it's the ability to understand what the hell is happening, and maybe that's more of a like philosophical or moral question.
Sure.
But it's maybe a little off topic. It makes me think of a quote from what's his name? Dude who wrote Tom Sawyer. I forget his name, but that one guy. Racist. I do not. Yeah, that one guy with the white hair and the he looks like Einstein. But he says, and I'm atheist. It was a very scary journey, because I was raised Christian. So kind of having that like realization that I'm going to like cease to exist. Very scary, right? I think we can all like.
I think that's terrifying.
So one of the things that made me feel better and more at ease was just Mark Twain found it. Boom. All right. So he said,
I was not gonna get it.
He said I did not fear death. I've been dead for billions of years before I was born, and it caused me no issue, like no like awareness or like no pain. Like once I had no issue being like non-existent, I will have no issue going back to non-existence. And I think that's just kind of like the case where, I mean, if I was aborted, I wouldn't be here, but I also wouldn't have this journey, this collection of who I am to be able to feel these emotions, and I don't feel, and I sense the person who would be getting the abortion, they've already lived their life, they have made it to there, and I don't think that if we're gonna, because I don't want to go and say life, but yeah, let's just, for your sake, the life of the child, the unborn child is going to outweigh that. I think that they've come this far, they deserve to see it out, and...
Okay. And so, like, I think you nailed it, like, in terms of the conversation. This is really unique. But you nailed it in terms of, like, baseline understanding of how the world works, right? So I'm a Christian. You could probably guess that. But I am a Christian. But it comes down to that worldview basis, right? Like that grounding of like, how do we interpret reality? And where'd this all come from and what's the point? And so you can obviously know, I mean, what can I ask, like, denomination, like what you were raised in?
I was raised Mormon. So.
You were raised Mormon?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's so much clarity for me. I talk to a lot of Mormons too, and I hang out with a lot of Mormons. I have my disagreements, but I actually have a really good buddy of mine who walked away from Mormonism like 10 years ago, and actually became an atheist, and then he was like, that's a little intense, and then he like switched to like agnostic, and then he was like,
you're like, whatever, labels are important regardless of people say. So.
Sure, yeah.
Labels help you figure out what you are.
Sure, yeah, and like identity and whatnot, but I think you nailed it. It's like, what at the baseline, why does life even matter, and who gets to decide? And then you're saying autonomy, me, myself, and I, and then I'm saying, well, it's not just autonomy, because there's another body that's being affected. And like you said, there are those sad scenarios where the mother may not live, or the baby is going to die and might burst the fallopian tube. Those are tragic. And from what our experience has been, at least while we've been out here, and other guys that do something similar, is that's generally not the case. It's generally seen as just not human, a classical medical procedure that's just no biggie. And then
ultimately, I don't think anyone getting an abortion, obviously there's going to be the one part, for every time there's going to be someone that says, nuh-uh.
Yeah, there's going to be someone.
Yeah. But I really don't think anyone is going to be getting an abortion and think of it as a no biggie. Even if my partner got an abortion, we're damn nihilistic. We believe in just like self-actualizing, and what's here is what you get. And
so you're like full Nietzsche, like.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we would never, like, she would be the last person in the world to feel any sort of like mental anguish over the actual like child. That being said,
sure.
That would be an absolutely horrific experience without these fuckers over here. Sorry, not to.
No,
it just really like.
You're fine.
It's
you're
always,
fine.
It's always going to be.
We get called way worse.
it's always going to be like hard, always, and.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if I was going to say it's just chance, but I don't know if you're saying this, but. The thought that this is just a medical procedure, I'm going to go get my hair done, I'm going to get the dentist on Wednesday, and on Friday I'm going to get an abortion because that's my best time. No one views it that way.
Like, we have talked, and I mean, I would encourage, I know you wouldn't, but when we talk to women who have had abortions, which we talked to quite a few as we've been sending out there, a lot of them regard it as an appendix removal, more so. And it's like literally the clump of cells. And we're just saying we're all clumps of cells what makes the difference, and then and what we're advocating for is equal protection.
That's
like
not
just
equal.
like there's like what you have.
Because as far as I can tell, like, you would never want this, and I don't think for a second you would want to see your wife in any pain at all
No.
or suffering. But and correct me if I'm wrong, if worse came to worse, and it was just literally, it had to have one or the other, the doctor said, you can save your life or you save your child, you would save your child.
Mm-hmm. And what basically,
I personally find that really not offensive, but we have different values. We
Yeah.
do. And I think ultimately nothing's going to change that.
And then what's at like the rock bottom of those values is kind of what we were just discussing. It's like, what's the rock bottom? Because like morally speaking, if it's just our opinion, then it doesn't actually matter, right? Like Nietzsche.
Well, but like our lives matter, and that's why I'm not like a nihilist. Isn't mean like nothing matters. It's all. It does mean that, but it's not
ultimately, yes.
But it's not the idea. Isn't nothing matters, so I don't care. It means nothing matters, so I'm going to make everything matters. Like, if that makes sense. Nothing matters, so
it's arbitrary.
All of this. Everything we've done here, the fact that we have society, everything, it doesn't mean anything. It could all disappear tomorrow and no one would care.
Yep.
But it's beautiful nonetheless. It's worth preserving, and it's worth making sure that this, I guess, like, as a way of view, just this insane like function of biochemistry life that we got here, that we are even able to be here like 3.5 million or billion years later, like after everything
having this conversation. Yeah.
Well, I won't. I'm gonna be gone. But like,
I mean, like, yeah, until now,
yeah. Like, it's just the fact that we're here and we can even have the like brain capacity to understand what we're talking about. It's like, it's amazing. It's bizarre. It means nothing, but I'm gonna fight to make sure that like everyone that is having a conscious life, and that's, I guess, how we view it, because you're viewing the child as like a conscious life immediately from conception.
Not conscious, but kind of think of it like, if I'm viewing it as like, say there was someone in a coma and they were guaranteed to come out of it in 9 months. They're gonna come out of the coma in 9 months. Like, would you end it? Like, do we have the right to end that life? You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how
I guess if like, I was non-consentingly, like, because, there's a lot of non-consent here, but like, if I was non-consentingly like fucking chloroformed off the street, brought in, and then I woke up and I was hooked up to like this dude who's in a coma, and they're using my blood supply, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And they're like, sorry, it's totally cool though. This person, 9 months later, you just gotta like hang out here. We can roll your little machine around. It's gonna be a pain in the ass, but he's gonna live. I don't think that anyone has, like, that's my choice to make that and to feel good about what I've done to save him. Same as like if you'd feel good to bring a life in, to know that you can raise a child, which is such an amazing reward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like just being able to literally still, every year the
See,
kids
that's your Christianity coming out of you when you say
like,
reward.
it is because, and I would never have kids because I don't. And I think there's this like the bell curve of people who like should have kids and the people who have kids, and it's like whether they think they should have kids. And I'm like, I would never have kids because I don't think I could do a good enough job. But there's also so many people who never had that thought to begin with, who've had 6 kids. It's like that sort of idea that the best parents sometimes are never parents, and some of the worst parents are the most parents.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Often, and I don't.
Yeah, you're kind of talking like forced pregnancy, which, I mean, you probably know my response, right, to like that idea. If I assume you kind of know.
So you would be okay with, you would have a forced pregnancy, right?
Well, what I'm saying is that the decision was already made. The risk on.
You see, that's what you're saying. You're putting it in the core of the women that it's her fault that she was, like, we're talking, like, I'm here. I'm talking rape. I'm talking.
Okay, yeah.
Like things like that. It's like you.
I was talking consent, but
I'm just saying, like, that's if this. I can't go beyond those topics to a hypothetical different one where it is like just a normal pregnancy, because those rights of those individuals are on the line right now. And until we can, like,
the rape individual.
Yeah, just like anyone who like oh my God, you're just like, why would I ever want to put that 15-year-old who has been like molested by her dad and now has a fucking child growing inside of her through the hell of just of going through that pregnancy, like that no one deserves that, and it doesn't matter. I'm sorry for that, like, bastard child that, like, is, like, growing in her, but, like, that, it sucks. Like, her life is more important than the hypothetical life of a raper, I think. And if this was, like, if the Roe v. Wade thing wasn't so hot coal right now, and it was more of, like, the discussion
I will say that was a surprise, because we've been doing this a year, and then we're like, whoa.
Yeah, but if the discussion was solely on, like, everyone in the world, you know, like, all the televangelist preachers, it was just a given that, yeah, if you are underage, if you've been molested, if there's any of that, it is absolutely, like, codified in our Constitution. It would be easier to talk about these, but
sure.
Every consensual, like, sex that we're talking about, the cruel reality is that it's going to be, these laws are going to be used against people who are already the bigot, like, more a victim than we ever hopefully will be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll my 2-second response, and I know you're going to disagree, but it's okay, is that specifically in that instance, it's tragic, absolutely tragic. And I would say I have a moral foundation to call that wrong, right? It's not just my opinion, but objective. I believe in objective morality that is outside of a transcendental. I don't know. I don't want to. You sound like you've been a reader, Nietzsche and you know, Mark Twain and all that, but it sounds like I believe in a transcendental reality that it's not just made up within ourselves, but there's actually something outside of ourselves, and we, being, I believe, made in the image of God, we resonate with that, right? We image that. We have a conscience.
That's fair.
And so basically with the rape thing, I have a reason, like a grounding for why that's wrong. And then that is for the same reason, I believe, that rape is wrong, is actually the same reason I believe abortion is wrong. And that might sound really scary at first, like, oh my goodness, crazy. But the reasoning is it's an abuse of another person's body. It's an objectification and abuse and hatred, like, you know, and violence towards another person's body. And so that's my grounding, and I would say that we shouldn't punish. You know, if my dad was just a trash human being, I shouldn't be punished for that. He's the criminal. I think we should punish the criminal. Yeah, but you're punishing
the women ultimately. Like, yeah, you're by saying, like, we shouldn't punish the child, you're implicitly punishing the woman by having to be raped and then have something grow inside her and then give birth. It is like body horror to the max. I couldn't imagine anything more body horror than that, which your autonomy was taken by a single man in one night, and then he uses the law to control you further.
Well, there would be a law. It would be the law. Basically, my advocate is that child came into existence in terrible circumstances. Terrible circumstances. You and I both agree on that. The child is not at fault. What came out of that is not at fault. Now there is, and that's where, like, myself.
And I don't think we'll be able to get anything past that.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
I just want to, like, say, like, I think I get where you're coming from. It sounds like, because you said the
transcendental.
Yeah, like that whole belief system, it makes more sense, because if she has been molested and raped and then has to force birth this child, and then whatever awful shit entails, she will die, go to heaven, and
well, I'm not saying she's dying in this scenario.
Well, no, but I'm saying, like, ultimately, the idea is that when they pass away, when this is all, our walk here is done, they will have, like, some, like, I guess, justice, or, like, being able to, like, just because you did this, you're gonna be able to, like, assuming you aren't some awful person, you're gonna go to heaven and it'll be fine. And I think that ultimately is where we like just in like that
there's a barrier there.
Yeah, because I don't believe in that. So as far as I see, I just see injustice. Someone who has like the most awful thing happen to her, and then she's just in the laws and just like institutions in place are actively just there to just hammering the nail.
Yeah, and then, you mentioned justice, and from an atheistic perspective, like, how do you justify your stance to even say there is such a thing as injustice?
Because it's ultimately like our morals. It's like the idea of, I don't know if you're still at this place, but Christians often say, like, I never know if they're support or against.
It's a mix, yeah. Yeah.
It's like the idea of, like, well, if you're atheist, what stops you from raping? It's like, my belief in God does not, like, it's
Sure.
like, it's like the idea of, well, if you didn't believe in God, would you just go and start doing awful things? I would really hope not. But it sounds like a lot of people, that is like the,
Yeah,
if God didn't exist, there's
I don't
no
think you
morality.
do that.
No.
I don't think you do that. I think what I'm saying is that I believe that we are imaging God. It's a reality we can't escape, even if we deny it. And that reality is pressing in upon us, that we're accountable to something. And, whether or not it's like condemning thoughts, or, why should we love? Why should we hate injustice? Why should we love people? And what in the world, where did that come from? And why does that ultimately matter?
It's just like our morality is just based on what helped us initially. Like, if you just want to do it like evolutionary, it's like, it's so much more, it makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint to just be like, yeah, the Homo sapiens who work together collectively. That's why we're so tribally, and why it's so hard being in the 21st century, where we are all like aware of that, but it's still so hard to not be like us versus them. Yeah. It's just like, it's everything of our morals is ultimately it helped us. It's better to not like, and that's why we still have so many like flaws, because things that helped us at one point are now actually hurting us in another. And that's just our like my morals, regardless of like where I came from. If I just popped in and I wasn't, whatever it be, my morals start and end with hurting, like trying to cause as little harm as possible. And I guess
that sounds very Christian.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Christian. Christ is cool.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's a pretty like common like sentiment among atheists. It's
sure,
like,
yeah. Until they read, if you read a little bit more, I'm sure you wouldn't like some things he said. But
no,
yeah.
it's because it's the context of the time. It's like 2,000 years ago, he was a fucking like damn like really doing some radical like thoughts on some things that like had been taken for granted for a long time. So that when he says, it's kind of like when I view like the founding fathers, where there's a lot of stuff that I can accept as from the times. Same with like a lot of like authors I've liked. Like there's a lot of homophobic or transphobic things, even just like earlier in like 2000s, before there's more of a understanding and cultural awareness to that. But like, so I can definitely pass off some things as like in the moment or like in the time, and that's just more than most of the stuff where it's like it makes sense. Like, I mean, you can only be so progressive and like with it if you are just a holy man from Jerusalem. Like it's hard.
You're pushing modern standards upon the past.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm trying not to.
Yeah,
like I think that like when you see that like, oh, there's a lot to like about him. It's like, yeah, because it's like the Code of Hammurabi or whatever, where it's like the first one. It's like, damn, that shit was fucked up, but also for the time that was revolutionary, absolutely like killer, better than ever before. Like so I guess like if the Bible said that you could like rape people like every like 5th Sunday, would you be like, well, I have a standard and ultimately I believe in it, so this is fine?
Well, I think that's like saying that can't a circle be a square? It's just not the reality we live in. It's kind of, that would be an arbitrary question. And so just saying that I find things blindly in a reality that doesn't exist is not helpful.
I guess I'm saying what you're saying of my worldview not being as...
It's not coherent, is what I would say.
Excuse me?
It's not coherent in terms of things matter. I'm not trying to be insulting.
No, I just don't think you fucking get it, dude. Well, things don't matter, but I can still care about things. Things don't matter. Okay, when I go online and I play fucking Minecraft and I make a big fucking thing, it doesn't matter. nothing matters there. But I still want to do that. I want to be there and do that and make the most of it. What the fuck don't you get?
See, and
like I'm just because like I keep saying the same thing, like and you just keep saying the same, and like I think we are at a standstill.
Yeah, and well, I want to just maybe I'll finish with this because I don't want to upset you. I really, really don't. And I think disagreement's really good when you can have a disagreement.
I think it's easier to disagree when you're not it's easier for you to come up on a position of like, oh yeah, let's disagree about abortion thing when it's not so fucking close to your heart.
To say that because ultimately that's like here's my take, and you can fully deny this. I'm sure you will. That's okay. But you're speaking as if you still image God, meaning that we reflect Him in terms of some of His attributes, communicable attributes, love, justice, those things that we care about intuitively. That say the animals don't set up a courtroom that would separate us from the beasts, and that's.
I think that is itself wrong. I don't mean to because
I knew you would disagree.
No, but it's just like. The idea that morality is solely a human structure is also wrong. Like honestly, we've seen so many altruistic moments in the natural world where there's what you can't believe how is this happening, and a lot of times to play it off as just it's just their instincts, it's their survival instincts, and I think it's you're actually right. That's just it. Love, justice. Compassion, all those things are naturally built into us because they have let us survive this long, because we are a communal species. We love and compassion and fear and hate. All those things have kept us alive. It's like hand in hand. That's why we have so much evil, and that's why we have so much good, and why there's always on one corner of the earth there's going to be an awful, horrendous tragedy in the other, or maybe just 5 miles down the way there's going to be a fundraising for, it's just this complete...
I see. I totally hear what you're saying. But then, I guess what I would go with is I can leave you with this. I know you have to go to the bathroom, but basically, it was so I believe you're made in the image of God. You have a conscience. That word, con with science, knowledge, conscience. You're with knowledge, and ultimately, that's not arbitrary. That's actually ingrained, like you said, in us. Now, you may say it comes from evolutionary process. That implies that there's something we're going to, a standard,
I think we're still
progression.
I think that it can be argued that we're still evolving, to be honest.
Sure.
Just in terms of even, I don't know. It feels like the kids that I went to high school with look completely more masculine than some of the kids that are coming out of high school now. I don't know if that's science or just the soy.
Whatever's happening. Yeah.
But
Diet's changing.
I can already tell that the kids are all right, and it's I don't know. I don't want to go on it because I was supposed to be I think the farthest back we can go before our modern humans is 6,000 years ago, where they can't tell brain structures from bones, but then they still think that we may have come a long way from there just from internal lobe development, shit like that.
Sure.
I don't know where I was going with it.
And then, you're talking about brain gases and all that, and I'm just saying there's more to it. There's something transcendental. There's something outside of ourselves, and that we all instinctively know and adhere to, but it's skewed definitely by our own personal societal beliefs, right? Where you're raised changes how you see things, and but it's twisted. And then I was just gonna mention and you it sounds like you retained a bit of at least Christian language, maybe not Christianity, but Christian language in terms of do unto others. Yeah. And then I was gonna ask, without going too long, how do you feel you're doing in your own life in terms of doing unto others what you would rather have them do to you?
I think to the detriment of myself, maybe just fine. I don't know. I don't think that. With my personal relationships, we've been. That rule can bite you in the ass, obviously.
Yeah, it did me.
Yeah,
it did me. I was man, I'm not doing this.
Great experiences.
Yeah.
I've tried to help people out, only to realize what an actual narcissistic sociopath looks and behaves after they've done completely ruined our credit, that kind of stuff. It's ultimately I wouldn't turn away and say I was wrong. It's where I'm coming from, they're wrong, and I'm not I just want to make. I would hate for my presence in this world to ever make someone else's like worse.
Yeah, and I mean, but like we're not perfect. You would say you'd probably say that, and like I've hurt people, and whether purposefully or accidentally, and I think we all do, and on occasion we lie. It hurts someone. Like I've told lies, right? I'm sure at least everyone I've talked to has said yes, I have told lies. Like, would you? Yeah,
absolutely.
And I do think it's wrong, and we a lot of the times intuitively know it's wrong, especially when it harms another person.
It's just but you just try to be better. Like, you just try to be better.
Yeah, and like the harder I may be speaking just for myself, but the harder I tried to be better, the worse I am.
I don't.
And
it's
so,
not for me, I guess.
Okay, yeah, no, that's totally fair. But that's the ultimate. That's the pinch. That's if we are created out of something rather than nothing, and that there is like a base level of reality, like something holding this stuff together, right? That's what I was trying to say. Is like if that is true, we just don't measure up. Even with our own moral code, at times we just don't even measure up.
Of course not.
And I think that's when I became a Christian, that was the thing. It's like I don't actually measure up, even to my own standards, let alone the Bible. I read like Jesus, he said in Matthew 5, like, if you look upon a woman and lust after her, you commit adultery with her in your heart. Or if you hate your brother, you murdered him. Because it's like that beginning of the thought process, the beginning of the heart actions.
Yeah, it's just that.
And I was like, that standard's crazy. I'm guilty.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's it's an old book, and I don't think they were aware of like intrusive thought and like OCD and like intrusive thought processes in modern. It's like it's like just that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
But like I guess according to that would be, and so that's pretty hard to follow.
It's pretty. Yeah, it's
that's
hard.
not my standard though. So.
And that of course, and I would.
Do you mind if I?
Oh, you're fine. No, yeah. But like the reason I was saying that is like, if that is the case though, and if there is a God that cares about those things, that justice, ultimately, I think we just all fall flat. We just like, and
you
that's.
You just gotta keep trying your best.
Yeah, absolutely. And then whether or not it's your standard, it's like if you're in the law of the land, like the law, if this is God's world.
Well, I don't believe.
I know you don't believe it.
No,
but
I don't believe. I actually, I have my own. I don't believe in following like arbitrary laws. I don't believe in like the rule of law. Because there's a lot of times where it's wrong to follow like a law, and I think of like.
Well, we would agree with you. That's why we're out here.
Well, I know. So it's like I think we can all do that. I would never in my life. Don't catch me saying like, if it's the law, you have to follow the law because it's the law. It's like
we have gotten that out here too, and we're like,
oh yeah, people are bad at it. I mean, this is a pretty emotional thing, so I wouldn't be surprised if people come up here and have something and then they open their mouth and they just get really angry
of
because
course.
it's really hard.
It is really hard, and it is emotional, and we know that. That's why we're trying to be calm and respectful. But anyway, I was saying all that just because even if you don't believe, it's like if you're in the law of the land, the law of God, word of God for human flourishing, is like we all fall short, and that's obviously what is that's why Christ came as the new man. That's what Christians have been shouting about for 2,000 years.
Oh yeah, that's like how you kind of get around the Old Testament God being very, very scary, and the New Testament being like, all right, I calmed down, I took my Prozac, like that.
Well, I would say same God. He cares. He's merciful. In Deuteronomy 32, Old Testament, it says he's merciful to the 1,000th generation, but will by no means leave the guilty unpunished. And that ultimately was fulfilled in Jesus, as Christians believe. Isaiah 53 talks about Jesus, in the Old Testament again, being the coming Messiah that would bear the penalty of his people. And very explicit, really crazy. But that's the point being that if we all fall short, if there is ultimate justice after this life, if justice is going to be served, we're going to fall flat in the courtroom. We're going to be guilty. And
no one's perfect.
Yeah.
Except according to Christian Jesus. Even he wasn't, I guess. It's also the fun thing with the temple, the rage. It's like I'm still.
I would say that's
confused
his
with
house.
that, Yeah.
And he was doing what anyone would do in their house when someone was messing it up.
I didn't
was
realize
get them out.
Jerusalem was a stand your ground law.
Yeah, it was the temple. It was the
No,
temple,
I know,
but yeah, you're good.
But no, I do have to go.
Oh, you're
I'm
fine.
Sorry, yeah.
I will just leave with that. Is that what Christians have been talking about? Is that we're not good ultimately. We know, I believe intuitively, like you, like I was trying to argue with you, and I know you'll disagree, that we know that to be the truth. We suppress it because we would rather follow our own hearts rather than anything outside of ourselves, because it condemns us. And then, but there's a way out, and that's what Christians, like when I heard it, it was put to me like this, that like Jesus lived that perfect life, following the law of God perfectly. He died the death ultimately that I deserve. That's justice. And then he resurrected, defeating death. And by repenting, turning away from what my sin, what I know is wrong, and trusting in Christ, I am seen in him. It's like if he was in the courtroom and I was declared guilty, but Jesus was the guy that came in and paid the fine in full.
Yeah, I understand.
And you can be
yeah.
legally be dismissed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like the gospel, and I always want to make sure that's clear, because a lot of people have a lot of weird misconceptions about what Christianity is, and it sounds like you kind of knew.
No, if anything, that's just. All right, I do have to go.
Oh, you're
I'm
fine.
Trying to say the last word and then
can
walk
I
away,
ask your name? Is that okay?
Yeah, it's Leo.
Leo.
Leah.
Yeah. What was it?
Leah.
Leah. Oh, okay.
But I mean, I personally, ultimately, I think that's a pretty bad take. I think it allows a lot of people to just justify their sin as like, well, we're all sinners.
Yeah, people do that, and Paul, the Bible talks very harshly against it, and here's why. I'll speak to that really briefly. Lightning speed. The Bible describes that when you come to faith in Christ, that it's no longer you that lives, but Christ who lives in you by the Spirit, of course, and that it's like you have a stone heart that's cold and intense, and then it gets replaced with a heart of flesh. It's like a surgery, and that the things that I used to hate, you begin to like if you're truly born again. And that when you come to know God, you start to desiring the things of God. And it's like, what in the world? I would have hated myself a year ago, and now I'm saying this stuff. And it's like, it's a change. It's but it's like, but it happens.
Like, if this did, like, that's why I'm not as anti-theist as I used to be, because I am aware that like people need. I mean, and everything always, like, I think our base, like, I guess if you wanted to like put it as like a God, because I don't believe in God, but like my baseline is always just, I guess evolutionary, like intuition, if you want to call it that.
Sure.
Or like just what we do, because it's like what makes sense and what helps us like thrive.
Yeah, and that's true. And so, yeah, basically, that's the message of the gospel, is that it's open to anybody. It's free grace. It's free mercy. There's nothing. I would never ask anything of you. And that the reason I'm out here is not because I'm trying to earn God's favor. It's because I just genuinely care, and I care about people a lot. And and like, if I think eternal life is possible and I don't share it, like, how cruel is that?
Yeah, that's the Christian philosophy.
Right?
I can't fault you for it.
And so
there's precedent.
But Leah, it's so good to meet you. Thank you so much for chatting. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate that, like, we were able to talk, and like I'm not like I'm really glad we were able to talk.
For sure. I don't take this like the wrong way, or like dismissive or anything, but if you and your partner like ever have like a dangerous like pregnancy or something, and you do need to like abort, like, no one's gonna believe you. Like, you don't. I just don't want you to feel like it's gonna be something that you've said a lot and you can't go back, because it happens a lot.
Yeah.
And I just hope you and your wife have a great time, and that your child is healthy and beautiful. But please, just please do like what's right for you guys and for your wife, and God forbid if she ever was like raped or anything, just let you guys be happy. Like, please just give you guys self grace. So, and if a hard decision like that comes, don't be scared to do what you need to do for yourself.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah. I absolutely. Thank you.
That's all I gotta say.
And we will always seek to preserve life, both lives, and it's truly because we care so much, and we know that there is true meaning and value to human life, like what you're showing. And
I gotta go.
yeah, I appreciate you so much.